So this is something we saw yesterday, that NSG can have multiple inbound and outbound security rules. So NSG is like a gatekeeper, guys. Okay, so like suppose if you're staying in a building and if there's no gatekeeper, so there's no one checking who enters, who exits. There's no one checking. Correct? Everyone is allowed basically. But if you keep a gatekeeper and if you instruct the gatekeeper that only the authorized person should be able to enter the building premises, then the gatekeeper starts checking that person. That is what NSG is all about. So yesterday, if you remember the demo which we did, in that the authorized person was port 22. We have allowed port 22 to enter the server. The rest everything we have denied. So that is an example of NSG. So same goes with application security group. Now, if you read through the definition, I know no one will understand anything with the definition, but let's read through it. Application security group enables you to configure network security, allowing you to go group virtual machines and define network security policy based on those groups. Okay, so nothing we have understood. Let's break this down into a very simple terminology and understand what exactly is application security group. Now just take the same example of the building, okay, and the gatekeeper. Building is nothing but your resources and the gatekeeper is NSG. Now what exactly is ASG in this? Now think of that you are staying on the floor 6th, okay, and if anyone wants to access the floor 7, they have to go through floor 6 only. There's no direct lift or some, there's no direct staircase, nothing as such. If you want to go on the floor 7, you have to go through 6. So you have to enter 6. From 6, there could be some hidden stairs through which you will be going on floor 7. So this is what EAG does. Now just think of, in a company in a real time, there could be n number of servers which will not have public IP. There's no requirement of public IP for those servers. Okay. In such cases, these are all backend servers, guys. They are not. Uh, they don't have direct interaction with internet. No one can access those servers directly from internet. But yeah, if some administrative purpose, if you want to access, then definitely it can go through a front-end VMs. So such setup you can easily do with ESG. Let me explain you with a diagram. Now think of, this is you're trying to access an application, front-end application on port 443. That is HTTPS port, correct? These are your front-end VMs, VM1, VM2. And your application is hosted over here. Now we have attached an NSG at subnet level. Okay. Now this is your front end. So if you want to access your application, you can access your application on 443. Okay. Now think of, and these are your backend VMs wherein your database is hosted. Okay. So if I want to access this VM, I can access directly over here. But what if I want to access the VMs on, what if I want to access the VM on DB? If I want to access this VM, how do I access it? So this is the backend VM. So this can be accessed only through this VMs. Excuse me. This can be accessed only through this VMs. So if you see, this is what ASG does. Logical grouping. So if you have bunch of backend VMs, like suppose you have multiple backend VMs, this is your backend VMs. Okay, these are your database. Just imagine this is your database. So what are we doing? We are just logically grouping all this bunch of VMs as ASG. We are logically grouping. If anyone wants to access, they can directly access this ASG. Through this ASG, they can access these VMs. Why do we keep this? So see, all your VMs will not be exposed to public. Especially your databases, your backend VMs will not be exposed to public, because this is a security concern also. Like if you assign a public IP to any VM, so it's kind of a hacker knows like what is the entry point. So if they get rid of this ASG and everything, they can still enter your VM and they can exploit your applications. Okay, so everything in reality, everything will not be front end facing. Basically only your front end application will be front end facing. Even if you ask me, it's not front end facing because it goes through load balancer. We have seen the load balancer concept, correct? So in reality, nothing, not even your front end, not even your back end, nothing is front end. Goes it's all hidden behind the load balancer, and all the requests comes from the load balancer to the front end. And if you want to connect to the back end, then it goes from the front end to the back end. So this is what ASG does. Just imagine you have multiple front end VMs, okay, and they want to connect to the back end VMs. So again, you can group this front end VMs as ASG. So this is what logical grouping means. So all the requests will come from this ASG to this ASG. If you want to communicate, this is how the communication will happen. Understood? This is how the communication, this is what logical grouping means. Now, if you try to access directly this from outside internet, directly if you try to access this, then the access will be denied. You cannot access the backend VM directly. You have to go through the internal VMs itself. Okay, you have to go through the internal VMs itself. That is what logical grouping is all about. Now let's go and read the definition again. Application security group enable you to configure network security, allowing you to group virtual machines and defining network security policy based on those groups. ASG can be set up as source or destination. NSG would be still required if the VMs are grouped together. So you will still require NSGs, guys. So if you see this diagram, we still have NSGs at every places. Okay, and I have grouped this line, this black line, what you see, this is what I have grouped the VMs. So in my demo, what we'll do, we'll have a front-end VM created, we'll have a back-end VM created, and the back-end VM group will be grouped together with ASGs. Now many of you will ask, what is the need of ASG? This can be easily done with IPs also, correct? We can allow list of IPs that only from this IP the request should be accepted, and only this particular IP should be able to connect to this VM. Why do we need ASG? Okay, this should be a question. Now in reality, guys, the backend VM, we are not talking about one or two VMs. In backend, there could be more than 50 VMs. Okay, and we don't go and purchase static IP for everything. So the IP may keep changing. So how much IP will you keep track on? And if you have 50 VMs, will you go and look into one VM IPs and start putting it into the NSGs? No, that is quite not possible. That's a hectic task, kind of. What is the best way? Group all those 50 VM into one ASG. Group all those 50 VMs into one ASG. And if anyone wants to access to those VMs, just allow it through ASG. So this is one single entity. Create one ASG, group all the VMs and just allow the traffic through the ASG. That's it. In future, if you're adding multiple more VMs, just go and add it to the ASG. That's it. And if you don't have to take care of the IPs and you don't have to take care of the domain name and things like that. So that is where ASG comes very handy, guys. You don't have to remember any public IP or private IP. You don't have to go and put in that only one particular IPs to allow traffic, because that's a hectic task. You have to go and check what is the IP, then go and update the NSG, then do a back and forth multiple times. It's better to create ASG and allow traffic only through ASG. So let's do it through practical, guys, then you'll understand more. Let me show you what exactly we are doing today. So again, same thing. This will be my virtual network. Now we'll have, so the virtual network will be, what is the range? 10.0.0.0/16. This will be my range. It's a bigger range which we are selecting. Then in this I'll have two subnets today, not just one subnet. I'll have two subnets. The first subnet range I'll select as 10.10.0.1.0/24. This is, I'm breaking this bigger network into smaller network, and I'll have the other one as, you can have something like 10.0.2.0/24. Okay. Now we'll have one front-end VM. So just take this as my front-end VM. This will have my front end. Okay. I'll have my backend. So when I say backend, so I'll not give any public access to this backend VM. So directly, if you want to try to access this backend, you cannot access it. So this is your database. Just imagine this is your database. Backend DB. Okay. To be more specific. Now this is internet. This front-end VM will have a NIC card. We'll have a NIC card over here. So NIC card, that means it's a network interface card if you want to connect to internet, and if you want to assign a public IP, and we'll assign a public IP over here. So because I want to connect this VM to internet, so I will definitely need a pub IP, correct? Then I'll have a NSG rule. I'll have an NSG attached over here. I'll have a NSG attached. This NSG will allow, so this is NSG, Network Security Group, at the VM level, Network Security Group, and this will allow port 22. What it will allow? Port 22. So this is a similar setup what we did yesterday, guys. Nothing different. Port 22. Now if I want to send a traffic, the traffic will come, enter my VNet. It will come, enter my subnet. It will see the port 22 is allowed. Then it will be able to access this particular VM, the front end VM. Now, will this traffic be able to access my backend VM? So the answer is no. For this, we can have one more NIC card attached over here. We'll have a NIC card. The only difference is I'll not have a public IP now. I'll have a private IP with this NIC card. Now with private IP, definitely you cannot log in from internet. You cannot connect to this service from internet. And this will also have a NSG over here. This will also have a NSG. The only difference of this NSG is, the only difference, understand this guys, the only difference of this NSG will be it will allow traffic only through ASG. In no ports, I'm not opening any ports over here, no 22, nothing as such. It will allow traffic only through ASG. Allow ASG traffic. Now, what is this ASG traffic? From where I'm getting this traffic? Let's understand that. It will allow only ASG traffic. So what we'll do, we'll go ahead and group this. Just imagine that I just don't have one VM in front end. I got multiple VMs in front end. And these multiple VM needs to connect to the backend database for all sort of calls like API calls and things like that. Or if anyone wants to log into that backend VM, then they need to go through front end. Just imagine that I have grouped, there are n number of VMs into, I have grouped everything into ASG. This is ASG. This is ASG. Name it as ASG frontend, whatever you want to name it as, ASG frontend. So just for assumption, imagine there are 10 VMs in your frontend, and those 10 VMs are grouped together with this ASG. Okay, so you're able to enter your frontend, everything is good. Now, if you want to enter your backend, so you cannot directly access, firstly, you cannot access your VMs directly from like this, not possible. You cannot do that. Okay, so how do you access? The only access you can get is through ASG this way. Now at this place at ASG, if you have allowed port 22, then you'll be able to get access port 22. If you have not allowed anything at this ASG, you'll not get anything. So understood? At this ASG level, if you're allowing that, yeah, port 22 will be allowed, then you will be able to get through it. This is how logical grouping of ASG means. So this is where I just grouped one front end. If you want to have backend also grouped together as ASG, even that is possible. So wherever you want to do a logical grouping of VMs, you can do it at both the side, not just front end or backend. At the both the side you can do. So this is additional security you're putting in place, guys. You just imagine your backend is production. You cannot allow anyone directly access to your production. Okay, if anyone enters your production, your complete application is gone. So these are additional filters which you're keeping in between, just to keeping your backend servers secure. Okay, how many filters did we talk about? First, entering, you have a filter of virtual network. Second, you have a filter of subnet. Third, you have a filter of NSGs. Fourth, we have added additional filter of ASGs. Okay, so this is what exactly it is, and let's go ahead and do this in practical. Before that, I see there are questions from Josh. After allowing AG for let's so 50 VMs, we need to connect to many, 5 of them. Maybe we need to do some update. I'm not getting your question, Josh. After allowing AG for let's say 50 VMs. Okay, so you mean you have grouped 50 VMs into ASG, okay, and need to connect to 1 or 5 VMs. 1 or 5. Okay, you're trying to connect either the first or the fifth VM. That means correct. Let's say we want to do some update. Yeah, you can connect. So this a 50 VMs will have 50 private IPs. If you want to connect to any particular VM on it, then you can connect directly using the private IP, or if you have any DNS, a domain name given to those VMs, you can connect with the domain name. So it's ASG will not automatically drop your request to any of the VMs. If you want to connect to any particular VM, you can do it using IPs. Okay, hopefully that was your question. Josh? So let's go and see this in practical, guys, then you'll understand more. And make sure this is the diagram. I'll be sharing the diagram with you guys. So the way I am creating the complete setup, make sure do step by step as it is, because if you tend to create everything at once, you will end up getting errors and the desired result will not be achieved. Okay, so first we'll go and create this virtual network. Do one thing at a time. Okay, let's go and create a VNet. No resource group, so let's name it as Valaxy RG. Name it as VNet1. IP range, this is the IP we wanted, and there are two subnets which I wanted. So I'll delete this subnet. I remove this default subnet and I just create my own. I'll name it as subnet 1, and I'll have something like 10.0.1.0/24. This is what we have selected, correct? Perfect. This is one subnet. I need one more subnet. I'll name it as subnet 2. This time I'll have 10.0.2.0/24. Okay, perfect. Two subnets created. This is what I'm setting up. This is done. This is done. This is done. Okay, perfect. Review and create. So these are all set up at the network layer, guys. If you know, these are all at the network layer. We are doing the security. So these are your building blocks. When you set up an infra for your application to be deployed, this is something you will be deciding beforehand, like what all securities will be putting at the network layer. There are other security also. If you remember availability sets, what we did, we had load balancer over there. Okay, then all this thing are additional security which you can also put in. So you need to have a combination of all security. Just one or two securities you cannot put in. You will have combination of everything. Okay. Yeah, Mumin, you put anything in the
Hello,
chat?
Mr. Mohammed.
Yep,
How are you?
I'm doing good. Tell me.
Yeah, I remember last time I forgot to ask you about the NSG. Um, in the work environment, the solution architect is the one that instructs us on what to do, right? In terms
Correct.
of how to put the NSG.
Correct.
Okay.
Basically, if you ask me, the designing and everything will be done by the solution architect.
Yeah,
But definitely, if you have knowledge, you can suggest. And if the solution architect has missed something at the security level, you can even suggest this is what we can add additionally to make things more secure. Okay.
yeah. No worries. Even example as the IP addresses where we put in on the VMs. That's what the solution architect will still instruct us, right? So everything will be instructed by them, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So depending upon what type of project you have, just imagine if there's no solution architect and your project came directly to you asking that this is the application we need to set this up on cloud. Let me know what all things we need. So in such cases, you have to dig in and you have to get the answers, correct? So yeah, if it's a bigger project wherein we have a solution architect and everyone in place, project manager, everyone in place, then they will go and design the complete flow for you. Okay. But what if you're working on a smaller project wherein they are asking your suggestion, which will happen mostly, guys? Being a DevOps engineer, let me tell you, you will have complete responsibility of doing things. So yeah, so in such cases, you will be the first one to be dragged in and asked what needs to be done. How do we make things secure? What are the different security measures we can take? So this all knowledge will definitely come handy when you're talking to someone. Okay, keep this in mind. Now we got the virtual network, guys. Hope that helps, Moomin.
Thank you.
No problem. So now like next part is we need to have this ASG, the first ASG created. Or before that, okay, let's create the ASG first. So if you want to create ASG, just look for ASG, Application Security Group. Now create this ASG. I'll be doing it in the same resource group. Name this ASG as ASG FE, front end ASG. This is okay. Next thing, just create a ASG. This ASG will be later attached to NSGs. So NSGs can be attached to subnet, can be attached to your NIC card. It can be also attached to ASGs. Remember guys, NSG. So NSG is very friendly. It goes with everything. Now this ASG is done. Where are we on the diagram? This is done. Now we need to have this front end VM first created. Now this front end VM needs to have a public IP because we need to connect. We want to connect to this front end VM using port 22. Okay. So ASG is done. Let's go and create a front end VM. So where's my virtual machine? Let's have this VM created quickly. Name it as front end. Okay. I'll keep everything as it is. The only thing I'll change is the recommended size. I don't want to go with this 2V CPU. Why I'm not getting the old one? I'll stick with 1 vCPU and 1 gig of RAM. This comes into free tier, guys. So even you guys stick with the same. I'm not using free tier. That's why it's showing charges over here. Okay. The user ID will be. Okay. I'm allowing port 22 as mentioned earlier that will allow port 22. Now in over here, I'll select my own virtual network. So this is VNet 1. This is something we have selected. And I'll have a subnet 1 selected. So my front end will go in subnet 1. This is my subnet 1. And my backend will go in subnet 2. Port 22 is allowed. If you see, the public IP is allowed over here. Perfect. Review and create. So now what exactly is getting created? Your front end application. Okay. So this part is getting created. We have created this ASG. This is VM getting created. Along with the VM, you will have a NIC card automatically attached, and along with the NIC, you'll have NSG automatically attached. So this is all will be done automatically. Okay, let's wait and watch. In the meanwhile, anyone has any questions? Again, I'm reiterating, guys, when you're practicing, have some similar diagram created, because when you create diagram, things becomes very easy because you just need to follow what is there in the diagram. So that's why I keep a practice of doing this, because there are so many components. It's not one or two components which you will be creating. There are so many components and people will tend to get confused what exactly they are doing. Have this created, then only start working on it. Okay. Play like a architect. Whenever they design something, they create the diagram first, they analyze the diagram, then they start fitting in the components. Keep that as a practice. Okay. Okay, VM is created. Now if I go to the virtual machine, I can easily log into this VM because I have the public IP. I have the public IP. And if I go into networking, and if I look into my NSG, I have this port 22 open. Perfect. This is looking perfect. Okay. If I want to log in, I can just log in. There's no need of login, guys. But yeah, let's do a login and verify. I can easily log in SSH at Valaxy at the public IP and see it is letting me log in. Perfect. So there's no issue. I was able to successfully log in. One part is done. So half of the part is done. Now we have created a ASG. What is the use? Now, this ASG needs to be attached to NSG. Okay. So let's talk about ASG. Now this ASG can be attached to this NSG. How? If you go to networking, there is an option of application security group over here. Click over here. Now if you see configure the application security group, click over here. Now you can attach your application security group which you have created for your front end. Now this has been attached at the network security group. Now what did we do? We have attached this ASG which we have created to this NSG. What is the benefit of doing this? So whatever you have allowed on NSG now, the same thing will be allowed at the ASG level also. So now whenever, now let's go and create the second part. So this is done. This is all done. We have done this. Now the main part is done. Now let's go and create the backend server. Done. Now let's go and create a backend server and see how we create a backend server and making sure nothing is allowed. Just name it as backend DB. Okay. Let's imagine this is the database server. Size is okay. Password. Okay. I'm not allowing any ports right now, guys. I'll keep it none. What did I say? We are not allowing any ports at this level. Okay. Disk. It's okay. Networking. I'll select my subnet 2 this time. Why did it create a new one? Why it's not selecting the previous one? East US. Okay, I'm not getting the VNet 1 again over here. This is the same issue which we had yesterday. It is creating a new over here. So this we can't do it. Let's refresh and come back. This happens because of caching and everything, guys. That's fine. Have a Valaxy group created. Go to networking and see if we are getting the virtual network one. Why I'm not getting the virtual network? Okay, so refresh. I should get the VNet. Because I put anything over here, it will go and create a new one. Let's see. Okay, I have to open this in incognito mode now. So hopefully I should get my VM name now, my virtual network name, because I want to create both the virtual network in the same VNet. Okay, Valaxy RG, name it as backend DB, and Valaxy. Ports none. Disk is okay. I am not getting my own virtual network. Which zone is in East US? Valaxy RG should get me the virtual network of my own. Give me 1 minute, guys. It should give me the drop down of virtual network. We got multiple subnets over here. This looks good. So it's some issues at the portal end, guys. It should give us the option to select our own virtual network. So it's not giving us. Wait, let me try a different browser then. Close it. Let's try Edge, Microsoft Edge. Oh yeah, also I'm not getting my virtual network. It is not letting me select my already created virtual network. This is a problem. See, it is creating automatically a new one, it is creating, which we don't want. We need to set up this again. This part we need to set up, and somehow, due to some glitch, I'm not getting what I want. Let me see if there's other way we can directly select the virtual network. Mm, Or let me try one thing. Let me have the ASG removed first, then we'll add later. I don't know if that will make any sense, but let's try it. Okay, then let's go and see. See this, it's creating altogether a new one, which we don't want. Creating a new subnet. Ooh, I think I may have to restart this completely. Close it, close it. You guys understood the issue, correct? What exactly the issue we are facing right now? So this is a possible glitch at the portal, guys. It should give me an option to select my existing virtual network, but it's automatically going and creating a new one right now, which we don't want. I don't want to select a new one. I want to use my existing virtual network, and it has its own subnet which I want to select, but somehow I'm not getting this option to select. In my first virtual machine which I have created, I had that option. In this, somehow I'm not getting it. See, what could be the possible issue? Hmm. This is the subnet what we have, on which I want the other VM to be created. And somehow this is not. Hmm. Now, if I created another virtual network, then we can connect through VNet pairing. That is something I don't want to do right now. It should give us an option to select our own virtual network, but somehow it is not letting us select. Mostly because of network security, East US, East US 2. It is in East US only. See, now it's getting. See, VNet 1. So definitely a glitch, wasted our time. Okay, let's set it up now. Backend DB. So this is definitely a glitch, guys. It was not allowing, now suddenly it started allowing us. Valaxy.
So in this situation, we need to wait and watch.
Yes, sometimes it happens to sync everything, but we have already spent more than 10-15 minutes, and it should have allowed by in the meanwhile. It happens, guys. Mostly it happens. So this is because of caching and everything what happens. And there are so many times I use this portal for so many things. So in my case, definitely it will happen. It happens. So in order to fix it, what I do, I clear the cache, I restart my system, I come back, everything looks good. In your case, if something like this happen, wait and give some time. Let it sync through. If not, then that time clear the cache and restart your system once. Then everything should be normal. Now, if you see, we were struggling to get those existing virtual network. Now see this, I'm getting it. Now I'll select my own subnet. So this is what happens. I wanted to do this setup, which because of some XYZ reason, it was not coming up. Now it is there. NIC card, basic, everything else is as it is. And I'll just review and create. So this is quite normal. If you don't see your resources, which you're trying to see, it could be some sync issue. Okay, keep that in mind. Okay, so we are creating the other part of the story now, wherein we are creating the backend. Perfect. I do see there were a couple of questions. Let's go and see those questions first. Are we going to cover private DNS, private link, private endpoint? This is something we did when we did NFS, Victoria. At that time, we talked about what exactly is private link, what is private endpoint, what is service endpoint. We went ahead and created private endpoints also. So please go through my, I think, previous to previous video, and then you will find out these topics which we have covered over there. Okay, so let's go back. We have two VMs. Now we have a complete setup. Even this is done. And I have not allowed any port. If you go and look into the virtual network, this is backend VM. If you go to the NSG, there is no 22 port allowed. I have not allowed anything. And if you go to the overview, there is no public IP also. Okay, so public IP, oh, we missed this part. We have assigned public IP to this. Okay, no problem. I can go and deassociate the public IP. The public IP is associated with your NIC itself. Open the NIC, go to IP configuration. I'm into the NIC card. So the public IP, what did I say? It gets associated with your NIC card, guys. So again, a new topic for you all. If suppose you forgot to update the public IP, and now later you want to add the public IP, then go and create public IP first, then attach it to your NIC card. In my case, this is reversed. I have by mistakenly attached a public IP to my VM, which I want to remove now. So I can go to IP configuration under NIC card. I can go to IP configuration. Now over here, this is my backend IP. See this. I can simply go and IP. Let's go inside this. Now, do you see there's an option of associate, deassociate, deassociate? Save it. What did I do? By mistakenly, while creating the VM, I have assigned public IP, which we should not do because this is a backend VM. I don't need a public IP over here. So what did I do? I went ahead in the NIC card, removed the public IP. Now my VM will not have any public IP. As simple as that. Okay. Even though if there's a public IP, guys, directly no one will able to access. The reason is we haven't allowed any ports. So even if with the public IP, you cannot access it. But I'm just keeping things very simple for now. Now, if you go back to your VM, there's no public IP. The only thing you can see is this private IP, that is 10.0.2.4. So I think Josh, you have asked this question. So if you want to log into any such VMs, so this is through private IP. You will be able to do it. Okay, now let's verify if I'm able to connect directly. Definitely we cannot do it, but let's test it. If I'm able to, connect. So I'm not able to connect, guys. So because there's nothing we have given, no route traffic, no public IP, how will you connect firstly? So this is out of question. Now let's connect to the previous VM. This is my front end VM, guys. My front end VM, I'm able to connect. Now through my front end VM, let's see if I'm able to connect. I'm in my front end VM right now. Through my front end VM, if I'm able to connect to my backend 10.0.2.4. Let's see. See, it is allowing us through my front end VM. See, this is allowing because we have allowed port 22 at my front end VM and we have the ASG, and through this front end I'm able to connect to my backend VM now. See, we are in backend right now. Backend DB, and this connection was from front end DB, front end. So all your communication is happening from internet. It goes to your front end, then it goes to your backend. This is how the communication is happening right now. And if you want to be more specific, you can have inbound rules that all the traffic only should come from what is your source. So in your source, you can select your ASG. No application security group is showing. Wait, let me attach this application security group. If you remember, we have detached it, correct? Let's go to the front end VM first. Let's go to networking, application security group. Let's configure it. So if you want to be if you want to do where my application security group went now? We do have a ASG, correct? Did we delete it? Is there? No, the ASG is not visible. Wow. Guys, no, ASG is not visible. This was just visible. We have attached previously. No, this is not coming in the drop down. Great. This is, I can do one thing, I can create a new ASG quickly and name it something different. Let me remove this. Let's create a new ASG quickly. Name it ASG1, something like this, and have this in East US only. East US, review and create. Create. Now let's go and attach this ASG to the front end. So this is how, if you want to do a logical grouping, then you can do it through ASG. So all the network traffic will only allowed only through the ASG. As if now it is allowed because everything is there in the same VNet and everything is there in, there are two different subnet in the same VNet. That's why you're able to communicate from front end to back end. But the right way is through do it through ASG. Okay, this is created. Hopefully it should be visible now. Yeah, it's now visible. Great. So what did we do? We have attached ASG to a front-end application. Now only this ASG will be allowed to enter my backend application. How exactly this can be done? I can go to my backend DB VM and I can go to networking. Over here, when I'm allowing inbound rules, so see what I'll do. What my source will be. My source will be ASG. This is my source. So what do I mean? Only from this VM the traffic should come. If I have some other VM which is not part of this ASG, just imagine in this subnet I have one more VM over here. You'll not be able to connect to this. Now because I'm forcing that only from this VM I want to allow port 22. What did I do? Only from this ASG. This ASG is where? This ASG is attached to your front-end VM. Okay. Now only from this machine you can go to backend. As simple as that. If you have any other machine and if you try to go to this system, it will not be permitted. Okay. This is what ASG does for you. Logical grouping. See this. What is the source? ASG. What is the port? 22. Destination, then it will go to your, this is attached to this NIC card, so definitely this is your destination. Your backend DB is your destination. You can also have your backend DB ASG created and you can select the destination as ASG. Even that is possible, depending upon what type of architecture you're deciding. Okay guys, that's it for today. Tomorrow we'll focus on couple of more things. One is Bastion host. The second is NAT gateway. These are a couple of things which is required for you to understand. Account is locked. Account, like how come like you're not able to log into your portal? That means, Srisha?
Yes, Rohit. Yes, Rohit.
Yeah, so you just have to reset your password then. It's you can go and do forgot password. Like let me show you. So
Okay.
this is nothing but your Microsoft ID. So you just have to do forgot password and try to reset your password. It will ask for a few questions. You just have to reset and you're good to go. Now see, forgot password or
Okay,
email.
Rohit.
Email, if you have access to this email ID, then go and access your email ID. You can reset your password.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Yeah, thank you.
If anyone has any questions, guys, please do let me know. Tomorrow also we'll continue with network topic, and Monday onwards we'll start with Linux. Okay, so we'll start and see what are the basic Linux commands, because that is very important from DevOps perspective. So that is something we'll see it. So tomorrow we'll again focus on networking topic. If anyone has any questions, please do let me know, or we can wind up the call for today.
Yeah,
Anyone? Any question?
yeah, I have a question.
Yes, Josh, tell me.
Yeah, so when we provision a resource, is it possible to just stop the resource instead of deleting the resource and still not get charged?
Very good question, Josh, but the recommendation will be deleting the resource. I'll tell you the reason why. So when you create a virtual machine, if you go and see all your resources, okay, so this is not just a virtual machine which gets created. Now, if you
Okay,
see, there are so many other things got created. Now, when you stop the resource, what will happen? There's no compute happening. So definitely you're not getting charged for the compute. But there are other things, such as you have a disk attached, you have a public IP attached, okay, you have a network interface card attached. So these are the things which is attached, and you'll get charged for this on a continuous manner. So that is the reason I always say whenever you're done, because creating is not a big deal, correct? It was so simple. By just click we were able to create things. So whenever you're done, make sure to delete everything the way I'm doing it, because I don't want unnecessary you guys getting charged. If you're in free tier, that free tier is only for 30 days, guys. It's not even for 1 year like AWS. So after that, you'll start getting charged. So the recommendation is always delete everything when you're done with your practice. Don't keep anything behind. Okay,
okay, thank you.
no problem. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Let's meet tomorrow and let's continue with this networking topic. This is very interesting topic. And make sure to practice. Tomorrow I'll share the assignments, the cloud assignments. Make sure to complete the assignment during the weekend. Okay, bye bye.